Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be painting this forest scene, which is actually part of the Bruce Trail at Crawford Lake. Let's go. Today we're going to start off with cerulean blue and white to paint our background. If you want to, you can mix a little bit of cobalt blue in as well. It depends how blue you would like your sky. So I'm going to start by mixing some white paint, and then I'm going to add my cobalt blue and a little bit of cerulean blue to the top and blend down. Just a quick underpainting. Next thing I'm going to do is create a thumbnail sketch using a printout of my reference photo. I'm just creating a really simple grid by gridding it 2 by 3. Once I've created my grid, I'm going to label my grid ABC down one side, 1, 2 at the top, and that helps me easily transfer the main lines that I want to depict in my painting. So you can see here I'm doing the pathway. I'm going to focus on a few of the trees, not all of them because there's so many, in my sketch at least. And I want to make sure that I've got a foreground, middle ground and background. Once I've put in the main lines, I'm then just going to select the darkest of my areas within the painting. So that's my number 9s on the value scale, and also my lightest, which are the 0s on my value scale. I am going to use a little bit of artistic license here and exaggerate the trees, the depth of color and intensity of value in the foreground, just so that I have a more feeling of distance. I'm also going to label some of my areas with the areas that I want to focus on. So focal point, foreground, middle ground, background. So this is why it's really important to create a frame around your drawing so that you can put any notes and references. So you can see that I want all of my trees kind of slightly angled inwards. So if you see in the top right hand corner, I've got that little sketch. Just to remind myself to have everything angled slightly towards a third vanishing point at the top, which again gives me a feeling that I'm looking up into these magnificent treetops. Right, time to execute. So what I'm doing now is I'm using a muted brown. So I'm taking some raw umber with lots of white, and I'm starting to put in my background trees. I'm going very thin with a 1/4 inch flat brush, and I'm just creating lots and lots of distant trees in this very light brown that you'll barely be able to see, but it will help with the feeling of perspective. Next thing I'm doing is bringing in my middle ground trees. So this time slightly less white with my raw umber. You can add a little bit of blue to it if it's still a bit transparent. And these trees are going to be kind of just in the middle ground, but still not as intense as my focal trees. I think it's best to have an odd number. So make sure when you do this that you don't use 2 or 4. It just doesn't really read right in the painting. Make sure you have an odd number, 5, 7 or more. Next I'm going to put in my pathway. And this really helps gain some perspective. Make sure you have your vanishing point. My vanishing point is basically disappearing over to slightly above the horizon line to my second tree in. So that's where my vanishing point is. Next is our background foliage. So I'm taking, this is my favorite golden paint in cadmium yellow medium hue. And I'm just using this in its purest form. Why am I not using a slight green? Because the background is blue and some of that blue will show through the yellow and make it appear to be a very pale lime green. As I get towards the top of my foliage, I am bringing in a little bit of white just to show a little bit of cast light on the top of that distant foliage. Next, bring in a little bit of cadmium red and mix it in with the cadmium yellow. You want a warm yellow rather than an orange. And this just adds a little bit of warmth to those background trees and helps bring dimension. Lastly, I'm bringing in a little bit of white highlights to my background foliage. I'm just showing here how to get some extra paint out when you think your tube is done. Cut it in half and scoop it out and you can actually put it back together again. You can do this with all of your paint tubes. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in for next week for the second part of our forest painting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.